Hey guys, and welcome back to DarkLogic Studios' Attack on Titan theories and discussions. Before we go any further, I want to give you fair warning that these videos are going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you're not caught up with the manga, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you should probably click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Hey guys, and welcome to my quick review of Attack on Titan Chapter 95. So this is the series where I do a quick summary of the manga and go over some of the most important points and revelations. So this chapter is called Liar, and we're back with our Marlayan characters. We're again following Reiner and learning more about how fucked up his life is. And in the first scene, we see that Gabi is kind of suspicious of Reiner. She points out that she could tell he was lying about something the night before. She can't put her finger on it, and she says that his mom could tell too. And she tells him that if she does inherit the Armored Titan, then she'll probably inherit his memories and find out what it is anyway. So she hopes that he tells her someday and they can figure it out together, and he just smiles at her and pats her on the head because obviously he can't say anything about it. Like, we discussed this in my last video when I talked a lot about Reiner and his inner conflicts, and it's true that she very well may remember all this stuff that happened to him on Paradise Island and how he really feels about it, but that's not something that I think he's willing to talk about, especially with her, because not just for his own safety, but if he were to tell her any of this, then he could potentially get her in trouble as well. But the most interesting thing that was mentioned in the scene is when Gabi says that blood ties has a role to play in whether someone inherits the memories or not. So what that little bit of information is telling us, that people who inherit a Titan from their blood relatives have a greater chance of inheriting that person's memories. So that could be significant. That might explain why the Reese family and this Tyber family, who we get introduced to this chapter, has passed them down through their family members, not just to keep it in the family and keep that power under their control, but also because of this memory thing. Anyway, moving on, we get this little scene with our kids, and Falco announces that he's gonna be the one to inherit the Armored Titan, and Gabi is immediately like, "What, motherfucker?" Skip to another scene, we see Galliard. He's walking around this building, and he comes across Pike, who's like crawling around on the floor, and she kind of creeps him out. He's like, "What the fuck?" And she seems to be a little bit amused. She's like, "Did I surprise you?" And she says she prefers to walk that way. Because she's so used to being the card titan that that's what she prefers now. But anyway, they go into this room, and Zeke and Colt and Reiner are there, reiterating what the Marlayan generals were saying a couple chapters back. The Titans are becoming obsolete, and conventional weapons have become powerful enough to defeat them, and that they need to do something about that. So we get this really interesting conversation between these characters, and it's pretty bleak. Zeke points out that because Marley is becoming weaker, that means the Eldians are gonna become at risk for extermination. So when we get to hear more about this interesting dynamic between the Eldians of the ghettos and the Marley, like the Marley are the ones actively oppressing the Eldians and confining them in these ghettos and stuff, but at the same time, they're the only reason that the Eldians outside of Paradise Island are still alive, because the Marley have kept them in order to use them as weapons, and by doing that have protected them from the rest of the world, who apparently just wants to annihilate the Eldians. And the irony of that is, even though the Marley are protecting the Eldians from extinction in a sense, they are also, by using them as weapons, adding to the worldwide hatred of the Eldians. They are sending the Titans out there to fight their wars for them to all these different countries, where they've been going and just taking over because they can, and everyone wants to fight back against the Marley. So the Marley, even though they're this huge superpower, it's all because of their military strength and because of their use of the Titans in wars. Because in the past, the Titans were so overwhelmingly powerful, nobody could fight back. So that's how they gained all their power. So if the Eldians go down, the Marley goes down with them. And I also think the Marley need the Eldians more than the Eldians need the Marley. I mean, we've got the Paradise Island people doing just fine on their own, at least for now. And they haven't been going around taking over countries or using their Titans against everybody else. But because of Marley's propaganda, they are the ones who are essentially being scapegoated for all this. Like, they blame everything on the people on Paradise Island, even though really we we don't have really any solid proof that any of this actually happened. Like that the Eldians had this empire where they basically did the same thing that the Marley are doing now, just on their own accord, and it like lasted for thousands of years or whatever. The only information we've ever seen about that was from Marley propaganda and from ancient Eldian scriptures that may or may not have been forged. So we don't even know if this massive Titan war and this whole Eldian empire thing who oppressed the Marley for forever is actually true. And it's safe to say at the very least it's probably very, very exaggerated. But whether it's true or not, it doesn't really matter, because you can't blame people who are around today for things that people did 2,000 years ago or whatever. Like, that would be crazy. So, but of course, the big difference between our world and the Attack on Titan world is the fact that the Eldians can become Titans and become these monsters that can wipe out the whole planet, apparently. And I love how Isayama creates these impossible situations throughout the whole story where you really can't blame any of the characters for feeling the way they do and doing the things that they do. Like, he gets you to understand their situations so well, and like, you really don't want these characters to destroy each other and you wish they could just get along, but things are so complicated and the stakes are so high. Like, all we can do at this point is watch and try to prepare for all of our favorite characters to die. But anyway, now that we've discussed the dynamic between the Marley and the Eldians, let's move on. So Zeke starts to propose a plan, and again he suggests that the only thing they can do to ensure Marley stays in power is to retrieve the original Titan, the coordinate. And Pike points out, and I love this weird shit between Zeke and Pike, like, they seem to have an interesting relationship, but Pike points out that even if they do retrieve the founding Titan, it won't take away the hatred that the rest of the world already feels for the Eldians. And then Zeke says that they need to come up with a story, and they need a powerful voice to tell it. The first thing that they need to do is remind the rest of the world how dangerous the people on Paradise Island are, and they want to use the Tyber family to do this. Now, the Tyber family is apparently a noble family, and the first that opposed King Fritz 100 years ago, and I guess joined with the Marley. And it also says that they possess what's called the Warhammer Titan. So apparently this family that's just been introduced, they are the ones who have the 9th Titan. That's where the 9th Titan is. So after all our speculation, it was just some random ass person. Okay, Isayama, I'm along for the ride. Where are you going with this? So, but apparently the Tyber family holds a lot of influence because of the fact that they were the first noble family to defect to the Marley when this war was going on. So they come to the conclusion that if they get this family to start talking about this and spreading this propaganda more, that people will listen and help them to achieve their goals. But Galliard doesn't seem too convinced by this. He points out that this family has never rose a finger to fight for the Marley. They live a life of luxury outside the ghettos. They don't really seem to give a shit about the rest of the aliens, so why would they help? And safe to say that the Tyber family, whoever they are, probably have their own motivations. Galliard tries to say something else, but Reiner interrupts them and kind of spews some crap about how they should be grateful and they should cooperate and blah blah blah. Then Zeke says that there's going to be a festival in Rebelio where the Tyber family are going to make an announcement that within a year the Marley will have control over Paradise Island, and that the fate of both the Marley and the Eldians depend on the success of this mission. So they're getting ready to beat the war drums and get everybody riled up. And on the next page we see some Marlayan officers, including Captain Maggot, listening in on their conversation. They don't seem happy about the way Galliard reacted, but he says we'll allow it since they're behind closed doors. Now, obviously, these Eldians are very heavily oppressed. I mean, they're not even allowed to ask questions or doubt the Marley or the mission or anything like that. And Captain Maggot says, kind of under his breath, as long as Zeke doesn't blurt out anything unnecessary, which I'm not really sure what that means. Obviously, Zeke probably knows more than the rest of them do. I wonder what he's referring to. In the panel after that, we see Reiner looking back at this phonograph, and he's thinking to himself, not in this room, huh? So he knows that somebody's listening in on them. So in the next few pages, we get to see a flashback of all the warriors fighting before they were sent on their mission. And it's talking about the different Titans And we see the whole beginning of their mission to take over Paradise Island, the mission that started this whole thing. We see that Reiner is chosen over Galliard, and Galliard's really upset about that, but Marcel gets him to calm down. We see them being paraded through the streets, and Reiner sees a guy and recognizes him somehow, and he follows him into this barracks, and he tries to talk to him and asks if he's his father. He says, my mom used to work here, her name's Karina Braun. He tells him they've become honorary Marlayans, and maybe they could live together now. And the guy just starts screaming at him and saying how that woman sent you here, didn't she? She wants revenge or whatever. And he's like freaking out. And he's like, do you know what will happen to me and my family if they find out about you? And he runs off, and Reiner's just left there, not sure what to think. And we see them at the boat, and they're about to head off on their mission. And Reiner's mom says, I'm sure you'll succeed in your mission, and I'm sure your father is praying for your success too. Poor Reiner. He just kind of swallows hard, and he's like, yeah. About that, Mom. People on the dock are seeing him off. They're cheering, they're shouting. Reiner's thinking to himself, I don't need a father. I'm a warrior chosen to inherit the armored titan. So he kind of reconciles the fact that his dad wants nothing to do with him with the fact that, hey, you know, I'm a warrior. I'm gonna be a hero. So who cares about my stupid dad? Which is sad because that's the only reason he even joined the warriors in the first place, was to be with his dad. His dad tells him to fuck off. But at least he can be like, at least I made it as a warrior. So they send them off, they leave them on Paradise Island, go do their mission. You see them camping, and they're talking, and Reiner goes on another one of those spews that he likes to go on. I wonder if as an adult it just became like a habit for him now, or if he's doing that to really, as a way of overcompensating, to cover up his conflicting feelings. Then as they're talking, Marcel, he starts tearing up and he tells Reiner, I'm sorry, you weren't supposed to be chosen as a warrior. I kept praising you while talking badly about my brother, because I wanted to protect him. And Reiner's like, what are you talking about? For the second time this chapter, Reiner's whole world falls apart in front of us. How many times has this happened to him now? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Marcel? Why are you apologizing? I am a warrior, chosen to inherit the power of the armored titan by the motherland Marley. And then right as the painful truth is just starting to sink in, that he wasn't supposed to be a warrior. He wasn't one of the best. He was still at the bottom of the class. He didn't surpass Galliard. That's when Ymir, as a mindless titan, fucking jumps out of nowhere and goes after Reiner, and then Marcel pushes him out of the way, and we see them running away from her titan. And there's Annie. For the first time, we're seeing Annie in this flashback. Like, we've seen this flashback like 3 or 4 times in the manga, it feels like, and we've never seen Annie, but we finally see Annie in this flashback, so she was there. Like, I've always wondered if she was actually there with them when that happened, because it never showed her and never mentioned it, but looks like she was. So that solves that mystery. And the footnote we got at the end is the boy who lost it all runs for his life, heading towards destruction. Sounds like somebody we know, other than Reiner, doesn't it? I mean, that could easily be said about Eren. So again, more parallels between Reiner and Eren. We got to see Reiner kind of be risen up to a point where he felt like he had accomplished something, he felt like he was special, he was chosen to be the armored titan, and then was crushed when he realized that it was all kind of bullshit. And something similar like that happened to Eren, if you remember. For a while, he thought he was special. He was the rogue titan. He was the Survey Corps titan and their secret weapon against the other titans. But then Eren later finds out that he wasn't so special after all. And this is made really clear during chapters 83 and 84 when that whole titan serum thing happened and Levi having to choose between Armin and Erwin. Eren even said, I'm not that special. All I ever wanted was revenge. When he's begging for Armin's life, he's like, Armin is special. Armin is the one who has dreams. Armin is the one who made it possible for us to do all these different things. I'm not special. And Eren realizes that all this time, all these people dying for him, dying to protect him, really wasn't worth it, and he really wasn't worthy of all those lives. But the most important thing, of course, that was revealed this chapter is the apparent identity of the 9th Titan. Now, I had a couple theories about the 9th Titan, and neither one of them turned out to be true, but that's okay, because whatever Isayama's got up his sleeve, I'm ready for it. So the 9th Titan is apparently called the Warhammer Titan. We don't know who has this Titan, what kind of Titan it is, what it looks like, what abilities it has, how big it is. We don't know anything about this Titan except for its name. It's interesting that it's called the Warhammer Titan, yet it's apparently never been used in war, at least during the past 100 years. So, but who is this Tyber family? Like, what significance are they going to have? How are they connected to any of our other characters? Where could that connection lie? This family has apparently been living as Marlayans for the past 100 years. They haven't had to live in the ghettos because of their act of defiance towards the first king during the war. And because they were already nobles, I guess, they gained the privilege of being treated as regular Marlayan citizens, their whole family. And also because they possess this Titan. It's safe to say that this Titan is probably pretty powerful, considering the fact that they haven't forced the family to use it for war. And not only that, they may be so powerful as nobles that the Marley are afraid to assert authority over them. They don't want to upset them because they have a lot of power. And since the Tyber family have this power, they can easily influence the Eldians of the ghetto. Now this could create an interesting dynamic, because if Zeke and Reiner kind of got it in their heads they might go against the Marley, and Isayama very well may not be showing us just how far along their thought process is on this, but this does seem to be developing an interesting setup. The fact that the majority of the Marley's military power resides with the Eldians, with the Titans, it might not actually take a lot to plant the seed of dissent within the Eldian community in the ghettos. And using this Tyber family, if they happen to have the same goals, they also want to overthrow the Marley if they want to have power, which people in power always want more power, so that's not hard to believe. And this could be the perfect way for them to do that. They'd have to figure out some way to make it not too obvious so that the Marley don't get suspicious and throw them off of a plane onto a fort somewhere. But from what it looks like to me, we seem to be getting things set up for a new Eldian rebellion, a new revivalist movement within the ghetto. And that would be really interesting to see, especially the Eldians of the ghetto and the Eldians of the island join forces and rise up against the Marley and the rest of the world, which I feel like more and more the story is starting to point in that direction. And it's a pretty scary thought. Like, I kind of want it to happen, but I don't want it to happen. And I love how Isayama writes his stories. I love how he creates these impossible situations where you really can't choose a side. Like, it's so complicated and so nuanced, and all the characters are so human. Like, it really makes you think. It really makes you question your own morality and your own values. That takes some serious fucking skills. But I can't tell you enough how conflicted I am about the end of this story, because either way, lots and lots of people are gonna die unless they can find a third option, unless they can find some way to get around this need for one side to destroy another. The question is, can they do that? Could they ever do that? I guess we'll have to see what happens. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to come back, because I'm going to be talking more in depth about this chapter in my review and discussion videos. We're going to have to talk more about Reiner and more about this 9th Titan, and whether we could actually still have a flying Titan, because they didn't say that it didn't fly. It could still have wings, just saying. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to check out my Patreon, and consider donating if you like my content and want to keep this channel going. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you next time. Peace.